The Child Angel by Charles Lamb. I chanced upon the prettiest, oddest, fantastical thing of a dream the other night that you shall hear of. I had been reading The Loves of the Angels, and went to bed with my head full of speculations, suggested by that extraordinary legend. It had given birth to innumerable conjectures, and, I remember, the last waking thought which I gave expression to on my pillow was a sort of wonder, what could come of it? I was suddenly transported, how or whither I could scarcely make out, but to some celestial region. It was not the real heavens neither, not the downright Bible heaven, but a kind of fairyland heaven, about which a poor human fancy may have leave to sport and air itself, I will hope, without presumption. Methought what wild things dreams are. I was present at what would you imagine? At an angel's gossiping. Whence it came, or how it came, or who bid it come, or whether it came purely of its own head, neither you nor I know, but there lay, sure enough, wrapped in its little cloudy swaddling bands, a child angel. Sun threads, filmy beams, ran through the celestial napery of what seemed its princely cradle. All the winged orders hovered round, watching when the newborn should open its yet closed eyes, which when it did, first one and then the other, with a solicitude and apprehension, yet not such as, stained with fear, dims the expanding eyelids of mortal infants, but as if to explore its path in those its unhereditary palaces. What an inextinguishable titter that time spared not celestial visages. Nor wanted there to my seeming, oh, the inexplicable simpleness of dreams, bowls of that cheering nectar, which mortals coddle call below. Nor were wanting faces of female ministrants, stricken in years, as it might seem, so dexterous were those heavenly attendants to counterfeit kindly similitudes of earth, to greet, with terrestrial child rites the young present, which earth had made to heaven. Then were celestial harpings heard, not in full symphony as those by which the spheres are tutored, but, as loudest instruments on earth speak oftentimes, muffled, so to accommodate their sound the better to the weak ears of the imperfect born. And, with the noise of those subdued soundings, the angelet sprang forth, fluttering its rudiments of pinions, but forthwith flagged and was recovered into the arms of those full-winged angels. And a wonder it was to see how, as years went round in heaven, a year in dreams is as a day. Continually its white shoulders put forth buds of wings, but wanting the perfect angelic nutriment, anon was shorn of its aspiring and fell fluttering, still caught by angel hands, for ever to put forth shoots, and to fall fluttering, because its birth was not of the unmixed vigor of heaven. And a name was given to the babe angel, and it was to be called Urania, because its production was of earth and heaven. And it could not taste of death, by reason of its adoption into immortal palaces, but it was to know weakness and reliance and the shadow of human imbecility, and it went with a lame gait. But in its goings it exceeded all mortal children in grace and swiftness. Then pity first sprang up in angelic bosoms, and yearnings, like the human, touched them at the sight of the immortal lame one. And with pain did then first those intuitive essences, with pain and strife to their natures, not grief, put back their bright intelligences, and reduce their ethereal minds, schooling them to degrees and slower processes, so to adapt their lessons to the gradual illumination, as must needs be of the half earth-born, and what intuitive notices they could not repel, by reason that their nature is, to know all things at once. The half-heavenly novice, by the better part of its nature, aspired to receive into its understanding, so that humility and aspiration went on even paced in the instruction of the glorious amphibium. But by reason that mature humanity is too gross to breathe the air of that supersubtle region, its portion was, and is, to be a child forever. And because the human part of it might not press into the heart and inwards of the palace of its adoption, those full-natured angels tended it by turns in the purlieus of the palace, where were shady groves and rivulets, like this green earth from which it came. So love, with voluntary humility, waited upon the entertainment of the new adopted. And myriads of years rolled round, in dreams time is nothing, and still it kept, and is to keep, perpetual childhood, and is the tutelar genius of childhood upon earth, and still goes lame and lovely. By the banks of the river Pisan is seen, lone sitting by the grave of the terrestrial Ada, whom the angel Nater loved, a child, but not the same which I saw in heaven. A mournful hue overcasts its lineaments. Nevertheless, a correspondency is between the child by the grave and that celestial orphan, whom I saw above, and the dimness of the grief upon the heavenly is as a shadow or emblem of that which stains the beauty of the terrestrial. And this correspondency is not to be understood but by dreams. And in the archives of heaven I had grace to read, how that once the angel Nater, being exiled from his place for mortal passion, Upspringing on the wings of parental love, such power had parental love for a moment to suspend the else irrevocable law, appeared for a brief instant in his station, and depositing a wondrous birth, straightway disappeared, and the palaces knew him no more. And this charge was the self-same babe, who goeth lame and lovely, but Adas sleepeth by the river Pisan.